Welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm Jared, and today we have a very special guest, author of Truth, Justice, and the American Way, and former DC colorist Gabe Eltaeb. Gabe, welcome to Under Two Capes.
How you doing, man? I'm doing really good. And you said author. I'm co-author with David Williams. He's the penciler. Okay. And he came to me with the story, so we're collabing story together. I guess I'm the main script guy, but I do want to give him credit.
That's
want
great.
to give him credit as co-author. We're both working on the story, David Williams and myself.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I'm excited to be here. So what's going on?
All right, so before we get to obviously we're probably going to talk about DC, but first I want to talk about your book. Okay, so yours and Dave's book. So give me the in a nutshell what your book's about.
Okay, well, it's funny you ask because I wrote a brand new little flavor kind of teaser for it. So here we go. Let me get my best reading and exciting voice for you. So, right. Truth, Justice, and American Way are America's sweethearts. Adored by the young and the old, they save the world and charm their fans with the utmost style and grace. They're regulars on the late-night talk shows, making the audiences laugh and scream with delight. Kids everywhere eat the Truth, Justice, American Way cereal while wearing the T-shirt and playing with the action figures. To say they are the world's most beloved and famous heroes is putting it lightly. One day, there's a devastating attack. Joy is turned to terror, and many lives are lost. In the fallout from this tragedy, the news media begins to question if Truth, Justice, and American Way have not done all they could to prevent it. People begin asking, were there other times Truth, Justice, and American Way didn't do all they could to save lives? The accusations of media firestorm explode with shocking allegations of negligence against our heroes, shattering public trust and destroying their image. Hounded by the authorities, Truth, Justice, and American Way, they go on the run. The government and military turn on them. Their friends abandon them, and the public now hates them. They're completely isolated. They're at their lowest now. They have nothing but each other. They have to find out the truth about the deadly attack. Who did it and why? Can they trust each other long enough to solve this mystery? Because if they don't, a much worse disaster is coming that will cost millions of lives. So there you go. In a nutshell, that's what we're doing here.
That
Classic
so
superhero
cool.
action and adventure. Got a little mystery. Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. So David Williams and I, he's 30-something years in the business. You know his work everywhere. He's been a behind-the-scenes guy mostly because he worked in cartoons a lot, Ben 10, Batman, Superman. But he did regular comics quite a bit, in the 90s. He started off there. But he's been behind the scenes for the last few decades a lot. Again, consumer products, cartoons. But he and I love comic books, and that's what this is. This is our love letter to superhero comics. We absolutely adore this stuff. We adore all the tropes and traditions of this media. And we feel like there's a vacuum in the mainstream. There's a vacuum for this classic action that is thrilling and vulnerable. You know what I mean? We're not afraid to embrace the insanity and extreme, exaggerated reality of comic books. We don't want to worry about looking precious or pretentious about what we're doing here. We want to just fully, with carefree abandon, just embrace what we believe superhero comics are all about, which is just putting a huge smile on people's faces.
Lord knows we need a lot more of that, and DC is not providing.
Oh no, it's not good, and I don't like to make fun of them. I don't, and you're free to say whatever you want. Don't feel pressured by me. But I worked there. I was on staff there for 3 years. I worked in the halls of Wildstorm. I had a desk for years. I had the company insurance, and I would go to all the convention stuff and the parties. And many of those people were my friends and still are my friends to this day. And my heart aches for them. I know them. Most of them are not SJW far leftist weirdos. Most of them are great men and women who want to pay their mortgage and make comic books. And it just takes a few rotten apples to spoil the whole bunch. There are crazy SJWs there because all the Hollywood companies have them. But what would shock the public who doesn't work in Hollywood, most people in entertainment aren't that way. Even if they're left-wing, they're very normal, nice people. Left, right, whatever, religious, non-religious. Most of them are very reasonable, normal people. But the SJWs, they're unhinged psychos, and they cow and bully everyone. Interesting, cow and bull, two of the same animal. They cow everyone into just putting their heads down and going, oh my God, I hope he stops screaming. And they get their way. They get their way and they destroy these iconic properties, these iconic books. I mean, we see it. We see the SJW movies and TV shows. We see them go out and fail and not get ratings, not get sales. Then we see stuff that avoids it and is not left-wing or right-wing. It's just adventure that everyone can agree on. and we see it succeed. Spider-Man, the newest one,
Exactly.
No Way Home, or what was it called?
I
Yeah,
think
and
No Way Home.
it didn't have that garbage in the story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and for
it
the
didn't
most
have
part,
that in the story, so it succeeded.
did you see the new Batman?
I haven't seen it yet. No, the last week almost, I was in Las Vegas. I went to go see UFC 272. I love fights and all that. I'm big. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4". I lifted weights, played a lot of football, so I love violence and all that. So I took my son. He's 23, and we went and watched a UFC fight. And then it was my daughter's 25th birthday a few days later. So I've been out of all the stuff for like 5-6 days. I just got home from Las Vegas yesterday. So no, I haven't seen Batman. I've heard it's very good, and I've heard it's not an SJW pile of garbage. So good job, Warner Brothers. We criticize them when they screw up. Let's give credit when it's due. Apparently, they were smart enough not to do that with this movie. Good work. Keep it up.
Yeah, because for the most part, recently, at least from my perspective, it looks like Hollywood's been kind of like trying to ride the metal line, because they've seen for like ever that when they try and like appease both sides, it doesn't matter which side you're talking about. Guess what? It doesn't do as well as it could. So, and that was our point, is that on the show we yearned for a time back before like even 2016 when stuff was like so apolitical. Yes, you can have like a political like sort of intonations in there, but right now it looks like the way they do it now, it's like they're beating you over the head with a sledgehammer.
You're right. They do beat people over the head with a far left message that I think even Democrats don't like, and it's hateful. It's so far left, and it says if you disagree with this, we hate you for disagreeing with it. And again, you heard the pitch for my story. Did any of that sound left or right wing to you?
No.
It's just thrills and suspense, danger for our heroes. I don't know how Han Solo voted. I don't know how Luke Skywalker votes. I don't care. I care that there's a horrible Death Star and Luke Skywalker blows it up. In my mind, that isn't left or right wing. That's just being a hero, and everyone can unite under that. So that's what David and I, and Gary Martin, the many like 40-year veteran of inking, he's inking David's pencils, and I'm the colorist and then co-writer with David. That's what we're after. We're not here to tell Democrats they're stupid. I'm not here to tell anyone anything like that. I am here to entertain you. I'm here to entertain you and make a lot of money doing it. That's what I want to do. I can give you the highest quality possible product. You know, David, Gary, and I, we combined, we have almost 90 years of experience in the comic book business, working at the highest levels. If you've heard of it, we've worked on it. So we'll look at Gary's like 40, David's like 30 something, I'm like 20 something years. So yeah, that's 90 something, right? Or thereabouts, whatever. I'm an artist, not a mathematician.
It's all good.
So
neither am I.
anything put out by Marvel and DC, we'll beat their quality. Absolutely, we'll beat their quality. We have a better product. So, and I'm totally confident in that.
Exactly. And I can tell you right now, at least from a fan, you definitely know what you're doing in terms of entertaining, because I have like a stack of like DC trades that's like all your stuff that I've been reading for like years. And I'm like, where have I heard that name before? Oh, yes.
Right. Well, again, I was prolific at DC. I worked on, I think I could color, there were some years I colored about 1,000 pages as a freelancer, and not just for DC, but mostly the bulk of my work. They were my major client. You know, I'm a freelancer. I own my own business. I said I worked on staff for 3 years. I did. It was 2008, 9, and 10. I worked as an actual employee. But then at the end of 2010, they announced that they were forming DC Entertainment and everything was moving to Hollywood. So the San Diego studio where I worked was going to LA. The New York stuff, Mad Magazine, all of it was going to LA eventually. So I went freelance and ended up working for Dark Horse and Marvel, and I did a lot of work for Robert Kirkman at Image. And so I worked around everywhere once I became a freelancer. But the bulk of it was DC, and that's why you have a ton of my work there.
Oh, awesome.
But, you know, the stuff started to get a little SJW in like 2013.
Yeah, kind of.
And it grew like a mold. You know what I mean? It grew like a mold on our business. And eventually it got to the point where I'm like, I got to get out of here. I don't want to do this. And I just want to celebrate my book and talk about how fun it is. But I have to say, my main reason for leaving DC Comics, because some stupid people out there like, you were bigoted. They made a bisexual character and you left.
I saw that.
Well, if you did any sort of research, you would know the very The very first book I worked on was Midnighter. He's
Yeah.
very gay. And that's a book I worked on. I was the colorist for Midnighter in 2008. And I worked on Authority for years with the very gay Midnighter and Apollo. I don't care if people are gay. It doesn't bother me at all.
You even said that in the interview about Superman.
Right. It's about the American way. That was the final straw for me. When Tom Taylor turned in his first script for the new series I was working on with him and John Timms, the name of the story was Truth, Justice, and a Better World. And I had anticipated him being like a SJW weirdo on the book and ruining Superman. And I was like, I hope he doesn't. I hope he understands that with Superman, we could just print money. If we just do what people are expecting and we do it to the best of our ability, if we just serve them that hamburger that they know they're going to get every time at McDonald's, it may not be the best, but it's consistent at McDonald's, right? So they do good business by being consistent. Well, we're really good, so we can give them the best and be consistent. But of course, no, let's change it. Let's get rid of his motto. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. It's like, okay, if you want to do that, make up a new character. But don't replace something that has a proven track record that people are expecting. You know, don't do that to be so clever, because it's very narcissistic to do that. So again, if you think I have a problem because the guy is bisexual or gay, you don't know anything, because Midnighter, that was my first book I did, and I loved it. And then Authority, again, these characters are very gay. I don't care. That gay people are real. They deserve to have stories written about them.
Exactly.
But make up new ones. If you want black characters, make up new ones. I'm Mexican and Arab. If I want that, then I need to make up a new one, not change Batman. Stop it. You know what I mean? Let me go back to the McDonald's analogy.
Sure.
They started off with just hamburgers, beef, right? Then they added a fish sandwich and a chicken sandwich. What they didn't do is get rid of the beef sandwiches and make them all fish, because they'd go out of business if they did that, because people love the beef sandwiches.
Yeah.
So leave your beef on the menu and add a fish sandwich. This isn't hard. This is not hard to understand. So, but to me, the moral issue was, I don't want to tell white people that they're pieces of crap because they're white. I don't want to tell patriotic people they're racist because they love their country. I don't want to tell gay people and black people that they're victims and losers and that white people are oppressing them. That's all hatred. All of that is hatred. It's hatred against whites, hatred against gays, blacks, Mexicans. It's all hatred. To tell minorities like myself that we're victims, that's hatred. You're not helping me telling me that. So I said to myself, I don't want to be a part of this. I talked to my dad about it. He gave me some really good advice. And as you know, I walked away and it went
very viral
in October. Right. So I have a book that is my, as the kids say, it's my clapback. It's my answer to them. Like, this is how you make superhero stories. This is how you thrill people. This is how you delight everyone. Because this is a business. You want to make money? I want to make a ton of money. You know, I like making money. I'm pretty dang good at it. I've made a lot of money. And I love making art. So let's combine those two things. The best way to thrill people and enjoy and have them enjoy and love what you're doing is to give them something that is universally understandable and relatable. Not something that points at half the audience and says, you're a racist because you didn't like my strong black woman character. You know, and again, I'm not a white guy. You know, I'm not siding with white people. You know, I'm not siding with anyone. I'm siding with humans and humanity. So, yeah, I'm really, really thrilled about our book. I don't want to be a part of being on their hateful SJW stuff that tells everyone they're racist or they're a victim. One of the two. There's both horrible things to tell people. And until they change, I wouldn't work for them again. You know what I mean? Like, no, they didn't cancel me. I quit. So that's just how that is. I won't participate in that. My father gave me his last name, and I'm not going to be the one to tarnish it, you know? So
hell yeah.
Love that. Those are my standards. Those are my standards. I won't do it. Hell no.
And from what I've seen,
the
book looks high quality, so I'm really excited.
Well, thank you so much. Well, like I said, David, Gary, and I, almost 90 years of experience. We know what we're doing here. We are the best of the best. I will put my book against any book in the entire business, and ours is better. Absolutely. I'm totally confident in that.
Particularly nowadays, because it's like I've been following a lot of you guys, like you, EVS, and all those guys, like a long time. And what's kind of humorous is that your stuff is hundreds of times better than whatever DC is putting out now, because the story quality is not there because, as you said, they start focusing on like divisive topics. People don't sell, and then they insult the audience. You guys are like, just read our stuff. We don't care.
Yeah, like, again, there's 8 billion people on Earth. Am I so silly that I think everyone agrees with everything I think? And furthermore, am I so arrogant and vain that I think they need to agree with everything I think? Of course not. But there are universal truths about humanity, about bravery, about sacrifice, about brotherhood, about standing up to evil that all of us basically agree on, unless you're a sociopath or something. And that's the audience I want to capture. I want 8 billion customers for this book. You know what I'm saying? I want to make a ton of money, and I want to do a great job, and I want to make amazing art. So that's what we're after, David and I. We want to bring joy. I don't want to bring divisiveness. That's why I left DC, because the mainstream is bringing divisiveness, calling whites racist, calling minorities like me victims. That's divisive. No, I won't play that game. So my book doesn't do that. My book says, hey, do you like thrills? Do you like strong men and beautiful women and terrible, what kind of word is that? Terrible evil villains getting their faces punched in and getting brought to justice? Well, I have the book you want. It's thrilling. It's got mystery too, which I love. I was on my cell phone last night just looking up like mystery brain teasers, like little short, like Sherlock Holmes kind of stories like that. And you read them, and then you try and figure it out on your own. Then you click and you can see the answer. I love mysteries. So our book has some mystery in it because I absolutely love stuff like that.
That's awesome.
So action and mystery. And I think the breakout character is Justice. He's our street level Charles Bronson, Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, Batman, Midnighter. He's the Punisher. He's like that sort of character. And I think he's a fan favorite. People everywhere are going crazy for this guy. So I just couldn't be happier with this thing.
So here's what we got so far. And dude, the art on this is like, wow. Really good.
Thank you. This is my Instagram.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
that's yeah, absolutely. Oh, there. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you. So,
go ahead.
Are there any specific like characters that you worked on at DC that you like base like a lot of like the designs and characterizations of these characters around, or is this all like 100% off the cuff?
David brought these 3 characters to me. He had the germ of this idea, and then he asked me to write a story based on his idea. So, like I said, we're co-writing the story. So David came to me with this concept of iconic group of heroes. They are the most popular, beloved people in the world, and they have this complete downfall. And they have to rely not just on their superpowers, but on the strength of their character, their hearts, and their mind, and who they are as people. They have to rely on that to get through this horrific stuff that happens to them. And I think it's a very human story because all of us have stared tragedy right in the eyes. All of us, whether it's when someone died or someone had a horrible disease or they went bankrupt or lost their business or divorce, all of us have had our hearts broken. And what I want this story to do for people is to show them no matter how hard your heart has been broken, that there's a way back. There's a way back if you just keep your head, keep the faith, and keep fighting. Like I said before, I don't want to divide. I don't want to divide people. I want to unite people. I want to inspire people. I want this book to lift people up and let them, when they close it, when they finally close that last page, they can say to themselves, yeah, man, anything is possible. That's what I want this book to be about. So again, that tagline I've said is like heroes you can believe in. That's what I want this book to do for people. I want this book to touch people deeply so they understand that everyone gets their heart broken. Everyone gets devastated in something in life, and there's a way out. There's a way back.
That's terrific. That's a great message, especially like the last couple of years. Lord knows we need heroes like that because, like you said, there was a big like gap in the market for these types of inspirational characters.
Absolutely. And look at how hard in let's get real for a minute, how hard the real world has been the last few years with the lockdowns and the pandemic and the economic devastation. And now there's like rumblings of war and stuff. And I don't want to get too heavy, but I think it would be easy for people to get discouraged, to feel despair. And I think despair is one of the worst things that can happen to a human being, because despair is when you resign yourself to your fate and you just give up. And I'm not calling people weak or dumb or failures if they give up. I think it's a tragedy. I feel very heartbroken for them, very sad. And I want them to know you can keep fighting. You can keep fighting. You can keep fighting. And if you fight and lose, you're not a loser. You know what I mean? Like, think of a soldier on a battlefield. If he's fighting his guts out and he dies, he didn't lose. He gave all he could. You know what I mean? So I want people to understand that about life, to just keep fighting. Just keep fighting and don't give up no matter how ugly it looks. Because my job as writer on this is to make things ugly for these heroes. I'm taking them down, but we're going to build them back up. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'm going to ruin their lives temporarily.
I love when writers say, I'm going to completely destroy these characters.
Right. But, you know, but we'll win it in the fourth quarter. We'll win it on a field goal with 2 seconds left.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions I normally ask new guests, so let's get into that. So what got you into comic books in general?
Well, I always liked to draw. I never can remember a time where I didn't draw. So I must have started drawing when I was, you know, as soon as I could hold a crayon, 3 years old or something. And it was Star Wars. I'm 43. I was born in 1978. So Star Wars was the biggest thing in the world when I was a small child. Return of the Jedi came out when I was 5 years old. So you can imagine what that must have been like. You know what I mean? Like, so Star Wars captured my imagination as a child. What got me into comics was Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Chris Claremont's X-Men #1 in 1990. Was that 91 or 92? I think it was 92.
Yeah, it was one of the 90s.
Or was it the end of 91? I don't know. Whatever. I was in middle school. I was in 7th or 8th grade. I saw the cover to issue 1 with the Beast leaping over a rock. And I just couldn't believe the energy. I couldn't believe the motion in that drawing. And I'd been drawing my whole life. I knew what comic books were, but I never bought them. I was never interested in them, really. I did have 4 Ninja Turtle graphic novels that I got from Costco. It was called Price Club in the old days. My parents got me Ninja Turtle like graphic novels of like the first 15 issues or whatever. They put them out right when that movie came out in 1990. So those were the only comics I had in 1990. But then in 1992, I saw Jim Lee's book, and then from then it was an obsession immediately. I had to know Jim Lee, become his friend, become his clone, draw comics, draw X-Men, work for him. And I lived in San Diego, and I was reading Wildcats when he put it out from Image, when they started Image. And in the letter section, they gave the address, and it was in San Diego. I was like, oh my God, he lives here. And then later, when I was a senior in high school, I ran into Scott Clark. He was the illustrator for Stormwatch and Allegra, and he did Alpha Flight at Marvel, and he did a lot of things. And I met him, and he lived 3 doors down from me when I was a senior in high school. So I'd go to his house and get drawing lessons. And then just being a San Diegan, I found out where Wildstorm was because there was an interview in Wizard Magazine, and they accidentally took a picture out the window of Wildstorm, and I saw the hotel behind it, and I knew where that hotel was. So I went down there and stalked it when I was like 20 years old, and I met Carlos de Anda. We became very good friends. We're great friends to this day. And we did Star Wars for 24 issues for Dark Horse. We did the Arkham City comics and all that. And it's funny to go full circle, starting off as a 3-year-old drawing Star Wars. And if I go to Disneyland or Disney World, they have the black and orange X-Wing fighters that I came up with. The first black X-Wings, I did that in the comic book at Dark Horse. And the white and blue, I did that. That was Princess Leia's special X-Wing fighter, and I colored the stripe on it blue because X-Wings always have a reddish stripe. So when I go to Disneyland, there's a life-size white X-Wing with a blue stripe. I'm like, wow. So the little kid who used to like draw Star Wars, there's the X-Wing right behind me. I'm standing in front of it taking a picture. So I couldn't be more excited and more blessed. And so people think I like hate the mainstream and all that. I was like, no. I hate some of the stuff going on. I adore comic books. And that's why I'm making my book, Truth, Justice, American Way, so I can take some of that love and that just golden, glowing, green, glowing energy that's in my heart about how much I love this and show it to you and then you can feel it too. Like Jim Lee showed it to me with that X-Men cover. He took his love of comics and held it in his hands, and he put it in my face and said, "Look at this. It's beautiful." And it infected me with that love of comics. And I want to do that. I want to take Truth, Justice, American Way and hold it in front of you and say, "Look at how beautiful this is." And then you'll be inspired. And new kids, another kid like me, 12 years old, will see Truth, Justice, American Way, and it'll blow their mind. And then when they're 43, they'll be interviewing somewhere talking about seeing my book. I want to pass that tradition along. And we don't do it by dividing people. We don't do it by calling half the audience racist. These are our customers. Nobody owes me a penny. I have to earn it. I want a ton of money. Sure, it's great to want things. It doesn't matter if I want it. I have to earn it. The only way I can earn it is by being professional and being kind and delivering a great product. So to all you out there, I humbly ask, check out my book. Please buy my book. It's an amazing, fun, thrilling ride. We will not let you down. We have decades of experience, and I will not tell you you're an idiot no matter your religion, your race, your sexual orientation. I don't care. That's your business. I'm not your dad. I have no right to tell you how to think or how to live. I just want to thrill you, and then you give me a little money for it. That's it. Very, very honest, very clean transaction. You give me some money, I give you some thrills. There we go.
All right. I love it. So question 2. I get the feeling I know this answer already, but DC or Marvel, which one's better?
Let's see. Which is better? I mean, I was an employee at DC. I've been to Hollywood movie premieres for DC. I'm very biased for DC. I can't answer the question honestly. It's like you're like asking me, I worked at DC forever. How can I? Of course, I'm going to say DC.
Okay.
And if I worked at Marvel, I'd probably say Marvel. It's a biased answer on my part. I think Marvel's definitely more popular. I don't think that. I know it. They seem to have better sales. Their movies and stuff seem to do better. But DC was my home. I was very proud to be DC, and I would like to be proud of them again someday.
That's cool.
I hope they turn it around. I'm a hopeful person. I don't think they're doomed and it's all going to be SJW forever and burned to the ground and nothing be left. I'm hopeful that someone there will say, "Hey, this is out of control," and put the brakes on and go back the right way. I hope so.
Me too. So who is your favorite superhero and why?
Spider-Man, because I started reading Spider-Man and I got a hold of these Kurt Busiek and Patrick Olef, Untold Tales of Spider-Man. And then I got the original Spider-Man phone books, like those black and white essentials edition that list all the things. Okay. And then John Romita Jr. was drawing Spider-Man in the late 90s when I was just like 20 years old. And I just loved it, what he was doing. So I actually named my son Peter, my son, my oldest son, that is his name. So I would say Spider-Man is my number one favorite character, but I do think Batman's a little bit cooler. You know what I mean? Batman is a little more exciting and Spider-Man is a little bit more fun. So it's right there. Spider-Man is 1 and Batman is like 1A, so.
I can respect that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So Spider-Man, more fun. Batman, more cool, more badass, so.
I can accept that.
But, my guilty pleasure favorite is Lobo.
Yes.
I love Lobo. One of the greatest single issues of any comic book ever written is like 1990 or 91, the Paramilitary Christmas Special by Keith Giffen and Simon Bisley. The Easter Bunny, drunk at a strip club, hires Lobo to kill Santa Claus because the Easter Bunny doesn't like how much more popular Santa is than Lobo. Lobo goes to the North Pole, infiltrates a heavily armed Santa's workshop, kills all the elves, kills Santa, steals his sleigh, and then flies over the world in the sleigh, dropping bombs instead of presents. It is a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
That sounds so Lobo. That is so Lobo.
Go on eBay right now and find it. It's literally the greatest Lobo story ever told. The Paramilitary Christmas Special. That thing blew my 13-year-old mind. I thought it was so funny. It's not hateful and dirty. Like Deadpool is too far to me. It gets very hateful.
It can.
Lobo is like Mad Magazine to me. It's just goofy. You know what I mean? It's just being goofy, and it's so funny. So,
my favorite Lobo moment was in the Justice League cartoon where they think Superman died, and Lobo just rolls in and tries to take his place on the Justice League. I was like, well, this is not going to end well.
Right. No, yeah, Lobo's one of my absolute favorite characters. So
he's one of my favorites.
Those would be it, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
What's your favorite comic book event?
Event. Oh man, event. You know, I was never big on the events. Oh, I know which one. 1999. It was No Man's Land, I think. There was a big earthquake in Detective Comics, Batman, all those books. Gotham City was like destroyed in an earthquake, and then like all the gangsters and stuff took over, and it was kind of, it wasn't post-apocalyptic, but it was like that. You know what I mean? Where the city was all destroyed and everything was chaotic. So I think No Man's Land was my favorite event because that was, I think, one of the only ones I really tried to follow all of it, and I really liked it a lot.
That worked. The problem I see, I keep trying to follow events, but then like both publishers are guilty of this. They put like 8,000 tie-ins, so it's really hard to like get the full story and understand what's going on because I have trades that don't collect all the tie-ins, so it'll like jump, and I'm like, the heck did this come from?
Yeah, I think a better way to have those epic event stories is just have its own standalone miniseries. I really do, and I think the regular books should be left alone. You know, and I honestly think the book should go back to the model of like where they knew people couldn't pick up every issue and that kids would go to the drugstore and miss an issue or two. So each story had a standalone, but you could have a running theme in the background of this villain who's reoccurring. But kind of like Star Trek always had the monster, you know, or Twilight Zone or any of those shows where they had the monster of the week, or X-Files. That's a perfect example. X-Files had a different weird mystery every week, but you also had that big conspiracy about the U.S. government and aliens and all that in the background all the time, kind of recurring. And I think a lot of periodical comics that come out once a month would be better served to do stories that way instead of leaving them hanging every month. I really do think people would feel better satisfaction if they got a beginning, middle, and end every issue. You know what I mean? And then you could have those subplots kind of dangle and tantalize people to want to get more later.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can have it where like there's a final epic event at the end of the series that is that threat coming to a head.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the early Savage Dragon from like before the Savage Dragon turned into what it is now, the early Savage Dragon had that. It was a straight crime, like street level crime and gangster thriller. But then there was this overlord guy just kind of in the background for a long time. And then that came to a head in like issue 15 or issue 20 or whatever. Eric Larson masterfully built that for like a year or two or something. It was, 30 years ago. I don't remember. But he built it for a while and it really worked. But I do think you do have to have the quote monster of the week like they had on Twilight Zone, and then have your other story kind of in the background, just kind of smoldering. I do think they should do that because I think when they do every issue is a hanging on to the next one, when do you feel the satisfaction? You know what I mean? Sometimes it takes too long. So
exactly, I definitely agree with you on that one. So here's an interesting one. What's your favorite art team that you got to work with at DC?
Oh, Carlos de Anda, I think for sure, working on Arkham City. You know what I mean? I wish I worked on it now. I was good then. Of course, the book is beautiful, but I'm such a better artist now. I just wonder what we could do with it now. But yeah, for sure. He's a good friend of mine. He lives by me here in San Diego. We have similar backgrounds, and stuff like that. We both worked at Wildstorm. And, I think we're about the same age by a year or two. So we get along very well, Carlos and I. We really like each other just as friends. And I think working with him on Arkham City was just a thrill. And then working with him on Star Wars was a thrill. You know what I mean? Two of my favorite projects I ever did, I did with him. So I think, I think he's my favorite guy to collab with as an artist. And then also, I would say the other guys I've liked working with, of course, I loved working with David Williams on Bass Reeves and now Truth, Justice, American Way. Okay, so my favorite art team in the past is definitely working with Carlos de Anda. I love working with David Williams on Truth, Justice, American Way and Bass Reeves. Who else did I just love working with? I got to color Jim Lee on the New 52 Justice League. I got to do like 2 issues. I got to help, not full issues, but I got to help. That was a thrill since he was the guy that inspired me to get into this. What else? Off the top of my head, I don't know. So many of them were good. There were a few I really didn't like, but I would never say names.
Okay, that's fine.
Because that's unprofessional. That's not cool.
Of course. So. All right, so last question for the icebreakers. What inspired you to start your YouTube channel?
I I think it was Ethan and seeing other people do it and seeing how much fun that was, seeing how you could really connect with fans. I'm not a shy person at all, as you can tell. And I love talking to people. I think one of my favorite things about going to conventions and things like that is the connection with fans in Artist Alley, doing sketches for them, talking to them, inspiring them. There's a boy that I've been at the San Diego Comic-Con for like 14 years. I've had a table there in Artist Alley. And there's a boy that started coming up to me like as a middle schooler, as a high schooler, and he would show me his work every year. And it's been like 14 years since he was a kid. He announced last year that he's like an artist on the TV show The Simpsons.
Oh, really?
And to see something like that, to see someone who could barely draw when they show me their stuff, and I would just encourage them and encourage them and encourage them to see them do it. It's like, yes, damn it. And yeah. So so to me, that's what really inspired me to do YouTube, is how much fun it is to connect with the fans. You know, because I was a person growing up, felt very isolated, felt very neglected. And I believed in myself a lot, you know, but I know there are people out there that feel alone and like no one believes in them. And I want to lift people up. I coached a lot of youth sports, like specifically football and soccer. And my teams were always, football teams specifically, always in the championship or won the championship. And there's nothing like coaching young men and they don't believe in themselves and they're getting beat up, and you can turn their lives around just talking to them and believing in them. So I think the human connection is what made me want to do YouTube and stuff like that. I think it's a really rewarding thing to do.
That's awesome. I have a question for you. It's kind of a fun little thing. And this has been a debate on the podcast with my co-host, and like every guest I've asked this question to. So who do you think Wonder Woman works in a relationship with more, Superman or Batman?
I would prefer her with Superman. I think it's more classic looking. I think
I got that.
I think I worked on it. Yeah, I worked on an issue of with Jim Lee on Justice League. And there's a scene of them floating in the air with the moon behind them kissing. And I remember talking to Jim Lee and the editor Brian Cunningham and the other colorist was Alex Sinclair. And I saw that page of them kissing, and it wasn't a page I colored. I colored other pages in that issue. And we were trying to beat the deadline. It was like late at night. I was on the phone with the editor. He's like, you got like 2-3 hours left. And it was like a frantic thing. And it was like the same night that the final episode of Breaking Bad aired on television. I remember that night because after I finished the book, I was exhausted, and I went and watched the final episode of Breaking Bad. And I remember looking at that picture of Superman and Wonder Woman kissing in the purple moonlight that Alex Sinclair did. And I said, this is why we make comics, guys. It was a really magical moment, you know, to work with Jim Lee and all them on that. But it just feels classic. I feel like Batman is like a player, and he should never have a wife or a girlfriend. I feel like he should be like a millionaire in New York womanizer. Like he always just has different arm candy. I think that fits his personality much better. I feel like Batman doesn't have time for love. He doesn't have time for love. He's running a business. He's fighting the Joker and all his crazy villains. He doesn't have time for a wife and kids and all that. Superman is much more the iconic, classic American. Superman comes from that family in Kansas of farmers. Superman's at church on Sunday, and then he's having the big family lunch around the dining room table with his grandma and his mom and aunts and uncles on Sunday afternoon. Like he's an American with our classic culture. Batman's not doing any of that. He's metropolitan. He's living at the mansion. He's living at the top of the penthouse downtown New York City, you know, his fancy apartment. He's got a different international Russian model on his arm every week. Like he's not that guy at all. He's not that guy at all with Wonder Woman. Absolutely not. No.
I appreciate that because it's a big debate because my co-host is more toward Batman. I'm more toward Superman, obviously, because I have the book. All right, so next question. Who do you think is a better live action Batman, Christian Bale or Ben Affleck?
Man, I think Christian Bale was better, but I think Ben Affleck looked cooler. You know what I mean? Ben Affleck's like uniform was cooler looking.
Yes.
But Christian Bale, I just liked him better. You know, I think it was not Affleck's fault though. I think the Nolan movies are so good. I think Affleck probably would have been great in those too. You know what I mean? So it's a little unfair to Affleck because they didn't do enough with him. He was just, you know, in Justice Leagues, you know, he wasn't the main character. He was in like the Harlequin stuff a tiny bit, right? or was she in
He was
his
in
movie? I don't
Suicide
even
Squad.
remember. Like I'm
He was in
confused now.
Suicide Squad.
So, and yeah, I think the Snyderverse stuff, we all know what happened. The studio
Mhm.
interfered. Josh Whedon ruined this movie.
Thank you.
So yeah, Batman, he didn't get his own movie. And I think he was supposed to be the star of this one that just came out.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, he was.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Bale is definitely better, but I think it's not a fair question because Affleck never got a chance to prove himself as Batman.
Yeah. So what's your opinion of the Snyder Cut?
I thought the Snyder Cut was fun and entertaining, and I thought it was definitely better than the Justice League movie they released in theaters. And again, that's the big studio problem. You have a lot of untalented people at these big studios that are very powerful, and they give notes to writers and artists on how to make art, and they don't know what the F they're talking about. And it ruins so much television and movies and video games because, again, you have people who are managers and they're not artists. And nobody who knows less than somebody should be telling someone what to do. If you don't know how to draw better than me, shut your mouth about drawing. If you don't know how to write better than me, shut your mouth about writing. We have to respect the totem pole of who has the skills, who has the goods. But that's not how Hollywood works. There's a lot of politics, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of egos. And there's a lot of dumb people with egos in Hollywood who want to put their stamp on it. They want to say, I came up with this. It's like, yeah, well, that sucked. You know what I mean? And again, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the doing. If you could do it, you would be doing it. And that's why they don't, because they can't. So, but they get into these management and editorial positions. And that's a huge part of the problem at Marvel and DC. I don't want to be personally mean. Again, these people, I would still consider them friends. Maybe they can't stand me because I spoke out against this crap they're doing. But a lot of the problem at Marvel and DC is the incompetence of the editors. And I don't mean incompetence as human beings. They're fine people, but they don't know story as well as we do. They don't know art and color as well as we do. They don't know it. Why are they in charge? I think the companies have to find a better way to hire editorial people that are experts. We had a killer at DC Comics, Mark Chiarello. He's an artist, fully an artist. He's an amazing artist. He colored the first Hellboy stuff. He was a great artist. He was a great editor, you know, and then art director and all that. He was very good when he would give you notes. But you got these young kids there now, and I know why they hire them, because the salary's cheap. That's my guess. And they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they give you artistic notes, and you kind of have to listen, right? Because it's arm twisting. They're the ones that give out the jobs. You're going to disagree with them all the time. So it hurts the product because you have people that are non-experts, unqualified, incompetent. Again, not incompetent in human beings, but just incompetent about art, giving notes to people who are master artists like myself, master writers. You're giving them notes and you know way less. It doesn't make any sense.
So to give you an idea, going back to what you said about these executives not knowing what they're talking about. So I think the writer for like Man of Steel, he said that one of the notes was, we shouldn't blow up Superman's ship because how is he going to get back to Krypton? And I'm like, what? I know, right?
Right, exactly. I was working on the issue of Suicide Squad with my friend Philippe Briones. He was a top illustrator at Disney when they animator at Disney when they did Tarzan, Brother Bear, Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis, the Goofy movie. He was a lead animator at Disney France for all that. He came over to Marvel, then he came over to DC where I hooked up with him on Aquaman Rebirth, and we became good friends. And we did a lot of different books for DC. And we were working on an issue of Suicide Squad. And the way it works when you draw comics is you draw like sketches. We call them thumbnails. I don't know if the audience knows this. Forgive me if this is condescending, but some of you don't know this. You draw a thumbnail, which is a very loose sketch, and you send those to the editor and go, here's what I'm thinking for pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they say, oh, that's good. They approve it. Well, he sends in some thumbnails, and on one of the pages, there's supposed to be a kangaroo. So he just, when you draw thumbnails, you're drawing primitive shapes, boxes, spheres, cones, just indicating where things go. You're not going to take the time to finish it on a thumb. He indicates where this kangaroo is, you know, just a triangle and a circle, like the head's a triangle and a circle. And the editor sends him like Google image search pictures of kangaroos.
Oh, geez.
And that just shows you right there, the editors don't know what they're doing. It's like, you're 24, editor, little girl. This man is like 52 years old. He's been animating movies since before you were like born. And he knows how to draw a kangaroo. Like, you don't need to do this. He was just indicating where it was on the page. Have you seen Tarzan? Have you seen Emperor's New Groove? Yeah, he drew those. Don't worry about the kangaroo. So to me, that was just a concrete example of the incompetence of the editors. Again, nice people, but they have no business telling people like me and my buddy Philippe and David Williams, and they have no business telling us what to do because they're not better than us at this. They don't have an understanding of it. They don't have an understanding better than the average fan. And not to insult fans, but I'm a huge fan of the NFL. I don't think I could go out there tomorrow and win a football game in the NFL. I don't have the skills those guys have. I could have them if I worked real hard and practiced for years, but I don't have them. And I'm not arrogant enough to think, give me the ball, I'm going to win this game. Like, that's crazy. Okay. Like, that doesn't make sense, you know? So again, yeah, I think there's a lot of incompetence in Hollywood when it comes to management and editorial. They don't have the skills to understand how to make this art. I think Hollywood would be well served to give artists and writers and all that money and say, here's what we're looking for, and then leave you alone and let you make it.
Yeah.
I think they'd be well served to leave the artists and writers alone pretty much. And just set guidelines. Say, hey, you can't turn Batman into a heroin addict or a terrorist, but otherwise you can kind of do what you want and just leave us alone. We're really good at this. Trust me. If I go to the finest steakhouse in town, you know what I don't do? I don't go in the kitchen and look over the chef's shoulder and bother him about how to prepare my steak. I order it the way I want it, and then I trust him as an expert to deliver. So there's free advice, Hollywood. Trust us to deliver. We're experts. We can do this.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, take Zack Snyder. Yes, the first two movies didn't perform as well as Hollywood wanted because remember, Hollywood was playing catch up to Marvel. And what I think is hilarious is that all of a sudden they start saying, okay, so we have to make everything all happy and up and everything. But I'm like, okay, so one of your key characters is Batman. He's the antithesis of happiness. We already talked about that. And then it's like, you know, like what Zack Snyder did. Then why did you hire him?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. You're like, oh, I'm getting married and I want a jazz band at my wedding. So then I hire a polka band and complain that they play polka. What are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. You know, but again, that's the incompetence of the management in Hollywood. And I would advise all my friends out there, creators and artists and writers, find a way to go independent. I'm making way more money now than I made in the mainstream. And Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, they democratize this business for us. They allow us to advertise for free, essentially. And if we're good and engaging and fun and respectful to fans, the amount of money you can make is basically unlimited. There are 8 billion people on this planet, and they can all be your customers if you just treat them nice and you make great content. And that's what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? I don't need the big companies. They need me. And the moment my peers realize that, they can change anything they want.
Exactly. So you mentioned about how you're very hopeful that DC can turn everything around and start publishing good books again. So my question is, do you think that the merger is going to have a big role in that with Discovery?
I have no idea. I know this about corporate mergers and all that. And I'll use football as an example because I love football. I pay attention to football big time. I coached a lot of football, like I said. But in the NFL, you get your coach gets fired, right? The football team's coach gets fired and they get a new coach. Well, when the new coach comes in, all the old coaches who are still there and the old quarterback and the old players, if they were kind of shaky or whatever, they get nervous because the new coach, he wants to come and put his stamp on things. So I know the new ownership from Discovery, I know this just because it's human nature, not because I know it because someone told me, they're going to want to put their stamp on things, their direction. They did not invest billions of dollars in this to lose money, right? They invested it to make money. So they're going to assess everything they can and see what fat needs to be trimmed, what's working and what's not. And you could say, oh, they're left-wing Hollywood. They are, but what they really serve is money. And if they take a good hard look and they have some good accountants and some good leaders at Discovery and all that, and they go, this SJW crap doesn't make money. We can make a lot more money by playing it straight, like my comic, Truth, Justice, American Way. I think they will cut that stuff out of there, and I think they should. I think they'd be well served to do it. I mean, if they want to turn things around, I could turn that company around inside of a month. You put me in charge, I could beat the brakes off of Marvel if I was in charge of DC. Of
course.
I'd demolish Marvel. People would forget. People would be like, Marvel who? If I was in charge of it. Are you kidding me?
And it's not hard. You have Superman. He is the hero. They're called superheroes. They're halfway named after him. You know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely the new leadership is going to want to put their stamp on it. I think, unfortunately, there will be cuts, there will be layoffs, there will be cancellations of books, and I don't want any of this. I don't want to see people lose jobs, but I think it's inevitable. When the new coach comes in, he doesn't want the old quarterback. He wants his guy. He doesn't want the old coach for the offense. He wants his new guy. So I think there will be a lot of new guys coming in, new gals coming in, and I think it can only get better, right? Because it's horrible right now. So
exactly. And like you, yeah, I remain hopeful because look this way, my favorite superhero is Superman. His whole thing is hope. So I'm hopeful to see what goes on with the merger. All right. Which comic that you worked at DC was your favorite to work on in terms of character and story and stuff?
Oh, my favorite to work on. I think the two I had the most fun with ever were Arkham City with Carlos Down, as I already stated. And then recently, I did Young Justice with John Timms and Scott Godlewski. Very talented guys. I enjoyed Aquaman a bit. That wasn't as fun, but it felt very professional and very well done when we did Aquaman. I really liked that a lot. And I made a great friend there, Philippe Briones. I enjoyed that. I think those were it. I did stuff at Wildstorm. I love doing Midnighter. I was so proud to have my own book to color. I did the gay Midnighter comic for all you people out there that think conservatives hate gay people. I really loved it and was very proud of working on that. Yeah, I don't know. I think those are really memorable ones for me. I think it's Authority / Midnighter. Al Barrio Nuevo, I think that's his name. He illustrated Authority when I was at Wildstorm, and I colored a bunch of, and I thought his illustrations were out of this world. I really enjoyed that.
Awesome. I think Aquaman is the first book of yours that I really became aware of who you were. And then obviously I was watching EVS's streams and you would come on and hang out. All right, last question. So what's Comicsgate really like? Because there's a lot of misinformation about what Comicsgate is. So I kind of want to get an insider's perspective.
What I think Comicsgate is like is it's filled with people who have my personality. I think to some degree where we're the kind of people who stand up in the crowd and we say no. Most people keep their head down when someone, okay, so you're out somewhere, public space, movie theater, restaurant, you're riding the subway, and someone is screaming and yelling and causing chaos and upsetting it and ruining it for everyone, right? Someone's doing that. That's your SJW. One person. Everyone else is pretty normal. Left wing, right wing, it doesn't matter. They're normal. And they're just looking down at their phone saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, is this guy going to stop? He's crazy. You know, he's just yelling in the movie theater, screaming in the library. He's just the one agent of chaos causing trouble. Me, Ethan, all the commentators, we are the kind of people, the rare people who stand up and say, no, you stop it. You stop that. You're ruining it for everyone. Knock it off. We're the kind of people that have the balls, have the mental fortitude to say, no, I won't do this. This is wrong and you're wrong, and I'm not going to put up with this. And most people don't have the guts to do it, but I would encourage them. You do. You do have it in you to stand up in life. You do. Say, when something is wrong, say it. Say, no, I'm not going along with this garbage. You know, you don't have to be a psycho yourself and do wrong. I'm not saying break the law or do anything evil. What I'm saying is you can stand up and say, no, you want to do this crap like DC Comics. You want to divide. You want to call white people racist. You want to call gay people, women, and black people and Mexican people like me. You want to call us victims? Do it without me. I will not. There's no amount of money. I was working on Superman. That's prestigious. You know, I could write my own ticket at DC. They love me. I could have stayed there 20 more years and then just retired as an old man who was ashamed of what he had done. And I said, no, my father, my grandfather, all these people that gave up everything for me, I will not break the chain. My dad stood up to Gaddafi and escaped to Libya. You think I can't stand up to a blue-haired editor in Hollywood? My dad stood up to an actual murdering dictator that killed my grandfather, killed my dad's friends. My grandfather fought on the islands in World War II, watched his friends die. It is a small challenge for me to stand up to some feminist idiot editor. That's not a challenge compared to what my ancestors have done. So absolutely, I would encourage everyone out there, stand up for the truth. Don't put up with this garbage. Our culture is so wonderful and beautiful. It's worth fighting for. Absolutely.
All right. On that note, all right, I'm going to call it an episode for that week. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Gabe, thanks so much for having on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute delight. Truth, Justice, American Way, the best comic book of the decade, a return to classic superhero action. Go out right now, buy as many copies as you can afford. Tell all of your friends to get some. We can do this. We can turn this is how we win. We don't win by yelling at SJWs and far left lunatics and calling them ugly, stupid, and fat. We don't win that way. Now we just become angry and we just become part of the ugly problem of hate and division. The way we win is we make beautiful art. We show people why these traditions are important, why they need to be fought for, and why they need to be preserved. And you do that by buying my book. I do that by making the book. It's a great deal. We can win together. So please buy my book today. Thank you so much.
All right. And all right, everyone, have a great week. I hope you enjoyed that killer interview, and we will see you next week. Everyone, all right, stay here, work, everyone. Bye-bye.